Hello everyone, a very good evening to one and all. I hope so that everybody is doing fine. Myself Abhishek Singh, welcome you all in the StudyIQ IAS English. And today in this session we are going to cover the Pallava Dynasty. That is the next topic in our series on the R.S. Sharma, that is the old NCERT class 11th book, supplemented by the Tamil Nadu text board as well as the new NCERT. So here in this particular topic, that is the Pallava Dynasty, we will be focusing upon the basic details related to the Pallavas. We will try to trace the origin and the significance of the Pallava Dynasty, and also we will try to understand that how were they the most crucial dynasty when it comes to the art and architecture in the particularly in the South India. All right. And so let us start the topic quickly and make it sure that those who are here live in the session, guys, do not forget to share this session with your friends so that they can also join it. Now moving further, let me tell you one very important thing, that StudyIQ is celebrating the Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, and we are offering the great Independence Day sale. Here you can avail any of the optional subjects of your choice in a very marginal cost, that is of rupees 12,999, by using this code ASR Live. And this particular offer is also applicable on our P2I batches. And guys, for further details you can check the application as well as you can also check the description box that is given here after the video. Now moving to the topic, Pallava Dynasty. So guys, why is the Pallava Dynasty considered as the most important dynasty as far as the initial or the early phase of Dravidian temple architecture is concerned? For that, we need to understand the evolution and development of this dynasty. So behind me there is a map. Okay, if you can see this map behind me, I hope you can see this, everybody can see this map, and if you are able to see this map particularly, you can clearly demarcate that this is the area where the Pallavas, they have established their kingdom. Roughly you can say that this was in the Coromandel coast, that is the southeastern coastal region of our country, and somehow it is also extended towards the Karnataka region. And if you remember the previous class where we had studied about the Chalukya's dynasty, so clearly it is visible that the area of southern Karnataka, that must have been the area of conflict, between the Pallavas and the Chalukya dynasty. Alright everyone. Now the question arises that what is the meaning of Pallava dynasty? What is the meaning of Pallav? This word, what is the meaning? Pallav. So various historians, they have given their opinion that Pallav basically indicates a new leaf or a new tendril. Okay, new tendril. What is the meaning of tendril? So those who are aware, they might be aware that if suppose this is a plant and this is a leaf, okay, this is a leaf, then some of you might be seeing a modified leaf that is coming out of here, and it is having this type of structure, okay, this type of thread-like structure. Remember that in the area of southeastern Indian coastal region, we have a word called as Tondai. So guys, this Tondai, it is widely used term to indicate the thread-like tendrils, okay. So this is basically the term Tondai which is used to indicate the thread, and this is why that entire region that is called as a Tondai Mandalam, Tondai Mandalam. and the dynasty which is ruling in that area, that dynasty was called as Tondai. Tondai. However, since this dynasty, it became, right, sorry, the people who were living in that area, they were called as Tondai. Since this dynasty became a royal dynasty and started ruling with the emphasis on the Sanskrit and the Tamil languages, so this is why the term Tondai, this term was replaced by the Sanskrit term that is Pallav. That is Pallav. Now, this is just one of the theories of the origin of the Pallavas. There are several other theories. For example, some of the scholars, they just give one simple argument that these were probably the descendants of the Pallavas, or the Parthians. Remember that particular dynasty? Do you remember that? Parthians who came all the way from the Persia, after the Shaka advent, before the Kushana advent. And these Parthians, they had occupied the northwestern regions of India. It is suggested by some historians that these Parthians, eventually they lost their kingdom, they lost their areas, and they started migrating towards the southern India, and some of them, they got the vassalage or they got the feudal positions under the Kalbharas as well as under the Kalbharas and the Gangas, and eventually they established their own kingdom and called themselves as the Pallavas. However, we all are able to understand that this theory is also not completely true, right? But one thing that can be concluded from these two or three distinct theories, that definitely Pallavas had some, or in fact the major element in their origin, the major element was the local element, but definitely there would have been some or the other elemental effect of the external origins or external ancestry. This might be the true. Now moving further. So these Pallava dynasty, now when were they ruling? What is the time period, the timeline of the Pallavas? Now the timeline that can solve a lot of questions. So when we talk about the Pallava dynasty's timeline, then after the decline of the Satavahana dynasty, this particular dynasty was found by Shivskanda Varman. And remember that the early Pallavas, they were actually the contemporary of the Guptas. In fact, if you compare the entire flow chart, if you remember, I had told you that in the northern India, Kushanas were ruling, followed by, in the central and western India, Shakas were ruling. In the Deccan and southern India, the Satavahanas were ruling. So more or less you can say that after the decline of Satavahanas, there was the rule of the Vakatakas in the upper Deccan, and Pallavas in the lower Deccan, in the lower peninsula. And similarly in the northern India, after the decline of Kushanas, there was the rule of Guptas. And after the decline of Shakas also, the Guptas conquered that area as well. So we can say very clearly, we can see and we can understand very clearly that approximately in the time period of 300 AD, 400 AD, these two dynasties, namely the Gupta dynasty in the northern India and Vakataka dynasty in the Deccan part and the Pallava dynasty in the southern India. These three dynasties were ruling. However, Pallavas were not that much influential, not that much powerful during their early phase. Alright everyone. So, good evening Bulbul, very good evening. Now, here when I am talking about the early phase of the Pallava dynasty, remember that some of the early rulers, they included the Singh Varman, Shiv Skanda Varman, Veer Kurcha, right, and Shanda Varman. Similarly, Kumar Vishnu, Singh Varma, etc., etc. However, the decline of the early Pallavas, that started when Samudragupta, do you remember that? Samudragupta had led an expedition towards the southern India, that is mentioned in his Prayaga Prashasti. So, in that expedition, he had fought a battle against the Pallava ruler named Vishnugopa. And the defeat of this Vishnugopa, it led to the decline of the early phase of Pallavas, and they became the feudatories. Of the various dynasties which were ruling in that area. However, once again the Pallava dynasty will be emerging to the significance, as this dynasty would be re-established by a ruler named Singh Vishnu. And they will end the dominance of the Kalbharas. Okay, Kalbharas, at the court of which dynasty they used to act like a feudal chief. So we can say that what is the exact flow chart saying? Exact flow chart says that Pallavas, alright, in fact we should start with the Satavahanas, then Pallavas, then Kalbharas, and then again Pallavas, So we are going to study about this particular phase of the Pallavas, that is the royal or the greater Pallavas, right, greater phase of Pallavas. Now in this particular dynasty, some of the famous rulers might be there, as you might be aware. So guys, let me just give you a list of some of the famous rulers. Singh Vishnu, he was the founder of this particular dynasty, right, the real founder of the Pallavas, okay. Then followed by Mahendra Varman, Narsingh Varman first, Mahendra Varman second, Parmeshwar Varman, right everyone. Then Narsingh Varman second and Parmeshwar Varman second, as well as Mahendra Varman third. However, this dynasty will be supplanted by the cousin Pallavas, namely Nandi Varman second, then Danti Varman and Nandi Varman third, and then Nripatunga, and finally Aparajita. So all over, starting from Singh Vishnu, who is called as the real founder, and Narsingh Varman, Narsimha Varman, who is called as the greatest ruler of this dynasty. And moving to the Narsingh Varman second, right? Narsimha Varman second, and Nandi Varman. These two rulers, they will be famous for the structural temple, right? For the structural temples. Okay. And they will also be called as the pioneers of the Dravidian style. Okay, pioneers of the Dravidian temple style. Right, remember that. So all these are the simple factual details that we should be carefully aware about the Pallava dynasty. However, the last ruler will be Aparajit. He will be the last ruler. What will be the name of the last ruler? Aparajita. Okay, Aparajita. All right, everyone. So now when we are aware, let me tell you one thing, that we don't need to remember and cram these names all together. We just need to remember a few important names, like the one who is the real founder, that is Simha Vishnu. The one who is the strongest among them all, that is Narasimhavarman. Then those two rulers famous for the temple construction, Narasimhavarman II and Nandivarman. And the last ruler who will be called as the Aparajit. However, let me tell you that this Aparajit, okay, this Aparajit, he will be permanently crushed by the Chola ruler Aditya I. Chola ruler Aditya I. So Aparajit was the name, but he became such a Parajit person, such a losing person in the war, that he would never be able to recover, and the Pallavas, their dynasty will be permanently abolished, permanently finished. Okay, everyone. So this is a very easy method to remember the name of the last Pallava ruler, Aparajit, who was Parajit by, or who was defeated by, right, the Chola ruler Aditya I. Now moving to the more important part, that is the cultural contributions by the Pallava dynasty. Pallavas, remember, Pallavas are not famous for their extravagantly large empire or their extraordinarily strong rulers, not like that. Even though the Pallava rulers used to take the titles like Narasimha or something like that, which indicated their affiliation or their strength. Not just that, even the strongest ruler among the Pallavas, Narasimhavarman I, he took the title called as Mamalla or Mahamalla. Mahamalla. That is the great wrestler, a great wrestler. But they are not known, they are not famous for their victorious attitude. They are famous for their cultural contribution. So here, the Pallavas became great patrons of the learning and teaching, knowledge, scholarship, sculpture, art, so many things. In fact, their capital, Kanchi, it became a great center of the learning, right? As famous as the cities like Nalanda were there, Varanasi were there, Ujjaini was there, right? So Nalanda, Kashi, Ujjaini, these were the famous locations for the studies. Similarly, the Kanchi was also a famous location for the study. Let me tell you, there is a term that is called Ghatika. Okay, Ghatika. The Ghatika, this question was asked in the UPSC, prelims examination, probably I think in 2018 or 2020, right? This Ghatika at Kanchi was the popular, and it was attracting the students from all the parts of India as well as from abroad. What is the meaning of Ghatika? What is the Ghatika? Ghatika basically indicates that is a university or a college in the form of an ashram. Okay. In fact, the founder of the Kadamba dynasty, whose name was Mayur Shraman, he also studied the knowledgeable literature, scriptures like the Vedas and the other Shruti literature parts at the Ghatika of Kanchi. So Kanchi was a great center of Sanskrit learning. However, it was not great center only of Sanskrit, but also a great center of the Buddhist learning. In fact, let me tell you that Dignag, Dignag, that was a person who was a great Buddhist scholar. He would be studying at Kanchi. Not only that, Dharampal, who will be a Buddhist monk to become the principal at Nalanda University, the head of the Nalanda University, he would also be connected to the Kanchi Ghatika. Apart from that, the great Sanskrit scholar Bharavi, remember that, Bharavi, the great Sanskrit scholar, lived in the time of the Singh Vishnu, and another great Sanskrit scholar, Dandin, he was also the member in the court of Narsingh Varman II. So overall we can say one thing, that the era of the Pallavas was the era of the men of the words and letters, which indicates that they had a great patronage for the education as well as literature. How is it proved? It is proven by the literary interests and the great compositions done by the ruler themselves. In fact, Mahendravarman I, who was the successor of the Singh Vishnu and precursor of Narsingh Varman, he wrote a great Sanskrit play called as Matta Vilas Prahashan, right? Called as Matta Vilas Prahasanam. Remember this name. During the Pallava rule, the Bhakti cult will also be developing, and the two great cult of the Bhakti, one worshipped Lord Shiva and the other worshipped Lord Vishnu. So the worshippers of Lord Shiva called Nayanars and worshippers of Lord Vishnu called Alvars. These two different cults emerged as the cult of great Bhakti saints, and what did they do? They used the language called Tamil, that was the language of the common people, and very soon we will observe that some of the greatest literary works would be done in the Tamil language. Okay. Now, this work called as Devaram, that was composed by the Nayanars, and the book called as the Nalayara, Nalayara Divya Prabandham, that was the composition of the Alvars. Okay, composition of the Alvars. So these two books will be the very important contribution of the Nayanars and Alvars to the Bhakti literature. Now, if we talk about some of the other religious scholars as well as the literary scholars, remember this name, the Perun Devanar. Okay, Perun Devanar, he is very, very famous because he translated Mahabharat in the Tamil. What is the name of the Tamil Mahabharat? That is the Bharatvenba. Okay, Bharatvenba. Apart from that, there was another important work, This important work in the Tamil, that is called as the Nandik Kalambagam. Okay, that is the Nandik Kalambagam. So this particular work is basically having the unknown author. We don't know the name of the author. But let me tell you why is this work important. Because this work is actually dealing with a lot of informations about the society as well as the cultural and social practices, okay, of that particular era. Apart from that, the music and dance, they were also supported, and the development of the earliest form of Bharatanatyam, that can also be traced during the later phases of the Pallava dynasty. Okay, so I hope that this is making sense to everybody. Now moving further, when I am talking about the another aspect of art and culture during the Pallava dynasty, that is basically the genesis of the Dravidian style of temple architecture during the Pallava dynasty. Now, as I told you that Pallava dynasty is not very famous only for the rulers, but it is more famous for the contribution of the rulers in the field of the culture, literature, art, architecture, etc. For example, when we talk about the temple architecture, let me tell you, when we talk about the temple architecture, usually we are aware that there are three distinct types of the temple architecture in India, right? Three major types. Otherwise, if we start counting, then we will have more than three. We will have 5, 7 or more than that. But mainly we have three variations. The first one, that is called as the Nagar style. The second one, that is called as the Vesar style. and the third one, that is called as the Dravidian style. Okay, and when we talk about the geographical location of these temple styles, then Nagara is commonly in the northern India, in the north of Vindhya, okay. Then Vesar is commonly between the Vindhya and Krishna river. And when we talk about the Dravidian temple architecture, we commonly get the geographical location between, or not between, but in the south, right, in the southward of Krishna region. Okay, Krishna region. Right, everyone? Now let me tell you one thing. Suppose if you are saying that, sir, Krishna river flows in Maharashtra, it flows in Karnataka, it flows in the north of Kaveri, then we also see the temples of the Vesar style even in the southern Karnataka, even in the Tamil Nadu, or we also see the temple of the Dravidian style. Some of the temples in Dravidian style, they are present even in Chhattisgarh region. Then you have to understand that exceptions are always there. So this is why, suppose if UPSC gives you a question, in that question UPSC gives a statement that Dravidian temple architecture is present only in the southward direction or only in the southern India beyond Godavari river or beyond Krishna river or beyond Kaveri river. That does not matter that the name of which river is given there, but if it is saying that Dravidian temple architecture is found only in the southern India, that will become wrong statement at that very moment when you read it. All right. So you have to understand that there is always an exception to this type of practice. Now, moving further, as I told you that there were distinct periods of the temple architecture development under the Pallava Dynasty. So overall, we can say that in the first phase, they were not able to construct the structural temples, but they were constructing the construction of the rock cut monuments or rock cut temples. Right now, for example, when we talk about the first phase, then there are two distinct styles of the rock cut architecture. The first one is called as the Mahendra group, where the structures constructed by the Mahendra Varman, which are known as mandapas or the pillar halls. Now, how are these mandapas how are they appearing? They appear like the balcony, they appear like the veranda, in an old mansion, in an old house. You might have seen this type of architecture even in your village, even in your own rural houses, where the house is having a very wide and very long veranda adjoined by this type of pillars, where the pillars are richly carved. They are having the structural intricacies and carvings. They are beautified, of course, but are they constructed independently? Of course not. They are constructed in a huge rock structure by engroving and by cutting the rock in a deep manner. That is how they are constructed. Second phase, in the first phase, the second style is called as the Mamalla group, or also known as the Narsingh Varman group, where you will find the Rathas and the Mandapas both. Now, what is the meaning of the Rathas and the Mandapas? Remember, this is a structure called as Rath. It is nothing but a simple temple-like structure constructed with a single rock. using a single rock. So there is a huge mountain, huge rock, and you start cutting that mountain, you start engraving that mountain, and after some period this mountain will be reduced to this intricate shape of the temple, which appears like having a pyramidal roof, Now this is the beginning of temple architecture in the Dravidian style, but early temples, as I told you, they were constructed by cutting the rocks, not by joining the bricks or joining the rocks. However, when we talk about the second phase of the temple architecture, now this is the mature phase, remember that, okay? This is the mature phase of the temple architecture, and in this mature phase, what is the most important aspect? Here, the temples will be constructed independently at any particular place, at any particular site, by joining the bricks, joining the rocks, not by cutting down the bricks and the rocks. Is it okay, everybody? So the first phase, that was called as the rock cut, right? And the second phase, that would be called as the structural phase. In the structural period, there will be two distinct groups called as the Rajsimha group and Nandivarman group. In the Rajsimha group, as I told you, Rajsimha will be the title taken by Narasimhavarman II. And the Nandivarman group, that will be basically the comparatively smaller, however not so great looking temples. Got it? So here, if you observe the mandapas, they are usually constructed along with the temples also. This term called mandap, that is very often used even when we study about the temples, when we will study about the temples even in the upcoming periods, upcoming lectures, when we will cover the art and culture part. There I will also tell you about mandap in very much detail, but for now you can understand mandap like a covered balcony or like a covered veranda that is present along with the front facing pillars, and usually these are decorated, carved with the sculptural images, and of course stone cutting. But what is the difference between the mandapas and the rathas? They are both constructed on a single rock. However, when we do the excavation of the rock, we create the hollow balcony like a structure called mandap. But when we simply do the carvings on the rock, then we create a solid structure called as rath. Here it is open pavilion, and here it is looking like a temple chariot. In the mandapas, we have the simple column halls. Here we have the structural copies looking like each other. So we can say that it is Mahendravarman first who introduced the rock cut temples. Now remember the names. These are very, very important locations, and some of them have been asked and some of them might be asked in the upcoming prelims examination particularly. Look at this name, okay. So this style of the Pallava temples are seen at various places like the Mandagapattu, like Mahendravadi or Mamandur, okay, Dalavanur, Tiruchirappalli and Vallam, then Siyamangalam and Tirukalu Kunnaram. Okay, so Tirukalu Kunnaram is that place, that along with that Mandagapattu is that place where we all are going to get this type of temple. Second stage, as I told you, that was the stage of the rathas and the mandapas constructed by Narasimhavarman at his capital Mamallapuram. So 5 rathas called as the Panch Pandava rathas. Guys, the name is Panch Pandava rathas, but let me tell you that these rathas are Dharmaraj Rath, Bhimsen Rath, Arjuna Rath, Nakul Sahadev Rath, and the 5th one is the Draupadi Rath. The smallest one is Draupadi Rath. Okay, everyone. Now, those who can misunderstand it, that this might have some connection with Mahabharata, let me clarify that it has no connection with Mahabharata. It is only named after the Pandavas or named after the Panch Pandavas as the Panch Pandav Rathas. Because usually you will find a tradition in the Indian cultural journey that whenever and wherever there will be any group of the monuments with 5 different elements, 5 different members, usually such type of monuments will be named after the Pandavas. For example, in Nashik we have Pandav Leni. We have Pandav Leni, that is the series of 5 caves. Even in the Madhya Pradesh near Pachmadi, we have the Pandav caves or the Pandav Gufa. So there also 5 different crevices are there which are equated with the Pandava brothers. So this is the cultural tradition in India due to the widespread influence of the Mahabharata story. Now that is very, very important to note down. So when we talk about the mandapas, some of the mandapas are very popular, very, very popular, remember that. And these mandapas basically include what? These mandapas include Mahishasur Mardini Mandap, Tirumurti Mandap, Varah Mandap. Guys, I think, in fact I can bet, you must have heard these terms earlier also. Mahishasur Mardini and Varah. In fact, while discussing the chapter on Guptas, while discussing the chapter on the Indo-Greeks, or while discussing the chapter on the Indus Valley civilization also, I might have informed you that the Varah, the avatar of wild boar of Lord Vishnu. Now that is a very popular avatar. Okay. Apart from Varah, if you see, this is showing Mahishasur Mardini. That is the very famous story in which goddess Mahishasur Mardini, that is goddess Durga, she takes the avatar of Mahishasur Mardini and kills the great demon Mahishasur. Now that is the story which might be depicted since the time immemorial, and this is the story which may be found as north as in Jammu Kashmir or Himachal, as south as in Tamil Nadu, as east as in the areas of Assam, particularly the Karbi Anglong Plateau and some areas of the Mizoram Plateau, Mizoram Hills, and as west as in Gujarat, or even further west in the areas of Baluchistan, areas of Mehergarh. So we can see one thing, that these type of stories were probably the part of the folk culture of our country which were spreaded throughout, and this is why whenever a person suggests that India was never a nation, guys, remember that despite the non-applicability of the modern definitions of the nationalism, there was always a strange type of cultural uniformity, a cultural integration in the entire subcontinent, and that makes it unique, right? Remember that. So this is what mandap looks like. This is the outer wall of a mandap, where you can see on the outer wall of a mandap, you are able to see that there are n number of the sculptures, huge, great number of the sculptures are there. All right. You can see, somebody who is probably praying to the Lord, somebody who is carrying on his head, maybe like Bharat is carrying the padukas on his head. There is the description of a sage who is sitting here and probably writing some script or some literature. You can see this very, very lively depicted images of the elephant. These eyes are so beautifully depicted. The ratio and the proportion, right? Ratio and the proportion is so beautifully depicted that it looks like a real picture. It looks like a real picture. Not only that, if we talk about the third stage, where the Rajsimha who introduced the structural temples, the earliest example of the structural temple, that will be the shore temple at Mahabalipuram. Shore temple, that is called as a Tat Mandir in Hindi, right? Tat Mandir. So shore temple or Tat Mandir, that is the earliest example of the Dravidian architectural freestanding temple built by Raj Simha, or that is Narsinghvarman II. Raj Simha also built another temple which is even great, even better, even good looking. That is called as the Kailashanathar temple. Okay, Kailashanathar temple at Kanchi. And remember guys, that this Kailashanathar temple, it is basically more famous than the shore temple at Mamallapuram or Mahabalipuram. When we talk about the last stage, that is the fourth phase or the fourth part of this temple architecture of the Pallavas, we get the examples like Vaikuntha Perumal temple, Mukteshwar temple and the Matangeshwar temple, right? All these temples, they were constructed by Nandivarman, right? Either constructed or at least extended by Nandivarman. So we can say that these type of temples, as you can see here, these type of temples, what are the specialities of these temples? You can see their pyramidal structure, where on a rectangular base they are actually joined. They are joined on a rectangular base, and on the top of that you again see a rectangle, but over and above that rectangular base, you see a huge structure of the stone kept there with a kalash or with a pinnacle, right? With a kalash or with a pinnacle, right everyone? So that is how it looks. So basically this is the specific style of the temple tower, which is called as a Vimana. All right everyone? So this is the identity of Dravidian architecture, that the Vimana style of towers are constructed in the Dravidian temples. Not only that, you can also see the presence of a continuous boundary, right? This boundary. So boundary construction is another feature. Apart from that, you can also see the string and the row of the animals. The row of the animals here having the depictions of the Nandi. Okay, several Nandis are used to decorate the linings or the railings of this temple premises. Not only that, you will find certain features like there is the absence of, right, there is the absence of the adhesives. So they have not used adhesives, rather they have used the mechanical joints between the stone blocks, and these stone blocks are so joined that they don't even move even in the earthquakes or even in the likewise conditions. So you can understand the level of technological advancements which might be used in the construction of these temples. All right. So this is why the beginning of Dravidian architecture, that shall mark the beginning of an exceptionally great and technologically advanced style of temple construction. All right, everybody. So this is, I think, very important to understand that the temple architecture during this period, that was taking another height, that was going to another height. But what is the more special thing about it? You can consider it as a metaphor, or you can consider it as the imagination of the artist. But do you know what is this sculpture? This sculpture is showing a cat which is meditating in a standing position by folding the hands together. Okay, so this is a cat doing the penance. Penance means tapasya. Okay, so this is basically taken, this image is taken from the Mamallapuram temple, or Mamallapuram Mandap, which is having that great, that particular picture, this particular picture. So this is like an open art gallery where the miniature art sculptures are constructed in the stone. That is in fact one of the finest examples of the Pallava architecture. Here you can also see that the monuments bear the sculptural beauty as well as the descent of Ganga, penance of Arjun, all these are depicted. Not only that, the events related to the common life, lie-speaking monkey, elephants of the huge size, ascetic cat, all these are depicted here. All these are depicted here. All right, everyone. So I hope that this information must be of great utility for all of you in the examination. But one more information is very, very important for all of you, that StudyIQ IAS is celebrating the Independence Day with the Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, that great Independence Day sale. Here you are going to get huge discounts on the prices of the P2I batches as well as the optional batches. So do not delay it. Check the application, or you can also visit the link given in the description box here. And in case if you really want to enroll for any of these, guys, this is the greatest opportunity, the greatest chance that you will have at the least possible price. And what you have to do, you just have to use this code ASR live in order to purchase any of the optional subjects. Suppose if you choose history, so you have to go to the application of StudyIQ, select the optional batch, choose history and put the code ASR live. The original price will be rupees 20,499, but when you will use this code ASR live, this will be reduced to just rupees 12,999. Now that's I think a very heavy discount that you can obtain. So guys, that's all from my side. Thank you so much. And in case you want the PDF of all the sessions which are held in this particular week, so I would be uploading it by tomorrow. So guys, this is available on my Telegram group, which is @Abhishek Singh Sir PO, right? So you can also scan this QR code by your phone to join my Telegram channel. So thank you so much for watching it, guys. Take care, bye-bye, and let's meet on the next class, right? That will be on the combined, right? Will be on the combined study as well as the questions practice of the ancient history. So the next class will be consisting of the 50 MCQs, right? 50 MCQs from the ancient history, complete ancient history with 50 MCQs. Okay, everyone. So do not miss that class. That will be very, very important for your revision of the ancient history. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye. Jai Hind.